Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Awaken the World Quick Talk. Tonight, procrastination. Live on the Awaken the World YouTube channel. It is 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I believe it is Saturday. Sincerely starting to lose track of days. I know the word day is in there somewhere, and that's really about it. And that's okay. As we've talked about before, you don't always have to live in psychological time. Now, the purpose and point of tonight's talk is about the deviousness of our egoic structure, that sense of self. And procrastination can play a big part in it. And the thing about procrastination is that it usually involves something that the ego perceives it doesn't want to do, right? For example, you know you have your taxes to do, but you procrastinate. And you wait and you procrastinate, and before you know it, you're doing your taxes on the last day. Has that ever happened to you? It's never happened to me, but I've come close. And the thing about procrastination is it's the ego's way of trying to put off something it knows it must face one day, and it puts it off in the hopes that it's simply going to vanish. And believe it or not, a lot of people live their lives this way. And we have all sorts of names for that. We call them passive aggressive, which is not fair. There are passive-aggressive people out there, but the vast majority of them are simply procrastinators. They perceive everything as being difficult or being a problem, and therefore the ego doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So it tries to avoid it at all costs. Avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. When we procrastinate, this covers all sorts of areas, from our own personal health to those things we feel we must get done, to those things we need to get done. And indeed, there is nothing to do, and yet there is much to do. Now, when it comes to procrastination, ego uses this to prop itself up. There is some sense of loss coming that the ego perceives in some way, whether it's a loss of time, a loss of having fun, being enslaved to a day at work, whatever the case may be, and ego always wants to shove that off. Now, all sorts of additional things happen when we allow that to occur. We spend a lot of time thinking about that which we are pushing off. For example, a project that your wife has lovingly asked you to get done a week ago. It's not so loving today, and it better be done, or you're going to sleep in the doghouse. Ego will push that off, of course, and it has pushed that off, and then it looks for reasons why to do it, and it gets into all sorts of stories. And the perceptions begin to shift, and reality shifts for that egoic sense of self. And now, what was a simple, easy thing to complete in the beginning becomes a hard, difficult, even horrible task. And ego congratulates itself on pushing it off as long as possible because, of course, see how miserable it truly is. I've noticed with myself that a lot of times when it comes to woodwork and other projects like that I will tend to notice myself wanting to push it off and forcing myself sometimes to just get to it anyways, and being amazed at how much can be done at the end of the day. Of course, the amount of oil-based stain, despite being outside, that Kelly and I inhaled this afternoon, I think it's going to make for interesting dreams. So ultimately, be wary of procrastination. When you find yourself wanting to procrastinate, recognize that as an egoic reaction to something it does not want to do, something it does not want to face, something it does not want to deal with. And do the very best thing for yourself and go ahead and do it as soon as possible, if not right away. And you will see that indeed it was not near as difficult or horrible or troublesome as we often make it out to be. Much love to you this Saturday night from Kelly and myself. We hope you have a wonderful evening. It's a long weekend here in Canada, May long weekend, and of course there's a beautiful rain happening and everything is greening up nicely. Again, all our love and namaste. Have a wonderful night.